With 527 bulls on offer, the Gloucester sale is the largest all breeds market in the state, an important economic indicator for the beef industry. Last year, the top Angus cattle went for $6,500. This year, just $5,800. Overall, prices were down $200 per beast. But nobody came to the sale with false pretences. Prices were expected to be down after the worst drought in New South Wales in more than 30 years.
It's a good season, you know, people don't worry about how much money they're putting out. Now they're very conscious of it.
30% of the cattle were passed in as buyers simply weren't prepared to outlay big money on a punt that the season would improve. In the conservative market, the best prices were going to the popular breeds such as the Polar Herefords and Angus. Unusual bulls like this Sarwal, a tick-resistant animal originally bred in Pakistan, were overlooked. The sale continues tomorrow. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The three men were arrested during a joint operation by Mayfield detectives and beat police at home addresses in Mayfield, Tyers Hill and Windale. It's alleged the men were all employed by a transport company subcontracted to Ansett Air Freight. Police say the men pilfered goods over a number of years. They recovered a range of high-quality porcelain figurines, clothing, sewing machines and electrical goods, as well as a small arsenal of weapons. It's believed the three men were all weapons enthusiasts, and the rifles confiscated included everything from a flintlock musket to modern hunting rifles. 3 of the weapons were allegedly stolen, the rest were unlicensed. The men have all been granted bail to appear at Newcastle Local Court on October 1. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
The workers who built this railway shed in the 1890s probably wouldn't recognise it today. The drab workshop is gone, and in its place a bright modern public facility that the council hopes will provide shade and shelter for the families and community groups who use the foreshore. The complex includes lock-up storage and catering areas and public toilets. It's cost a total of $1.1 million. Much of that was spent on landscaping. Lord Mayor John McNaughton says it didn't cost much more than demolishing the historic structure and clearing the area would have. The official opening today will probably be one of many over the next few years as the council completes its long-term plan to spend $5 million on redeveloping the foreshore and surrounds.
Although the city's water supplies appear safe from the Giardia bug, the Water Board is still carrying out tests on untreated water in the Grahamstown Dam. Giardia is common in developing nations where it's associated with animal and human faecal matter and inadequate water treatment facilities. Australia is better equipped to treat its drinking water.
Giardia would be very unusual to have in Australia because there haven't been any confirmed cases of Giardia being found in Australian water supplies.
But the Water Board won't rule out the possibility that the disease is present in untreated water, and there's evidence that it has appeared in the Medowie area near the reservoir. A doctor who declined to be named has confirmed one local case. He says that as this is the season for gastric complaints, it's possible there have been other outbreaks which have been misdiagnosed. Giardiosis is a tummy upset caused by a bacteria. It can be treated by drugs, unlike other gastric complaints which are caused by viruses and rely on the body's own defences for recovery. If Giardia isn't treated, it can remain with the patient and be passed on to others, starting a mini-epidemic. The Water Board is taking the reported outbreak seriously, and officials believe it may be getting into the reservoir through the Campvale drain, which empties from swampland near Medowie.
Because we haven't picked up any Giardia at all in the water supply system, and it appears to be localised in the Medowie area, that it may be attributed to septic tanks overflowing into stormwater drains.
While supplies in the reservoir will be tested, the Water Board says it's relying on the diagnosis of doctors in the Newcastle area to confirm or dispel fears of a wider outbreak. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Final preparations were being made to displays this morning in anticipation of the 20,000 visitors expected over the two-day event. Each department at the three campuses, at Callaghan, the new name for the university suburb, the Conservatorium and Ourimbah, will give the public a look at university life, research and facilities. Buses will run from several suburbs in Newcastle to Callaghan to transport people around the campus, and visitors this year may come along with more than they bargained for.
The day opened with a bang. The studious and the just plain curious were treated to a glimpse of university life from test tubes to takeoffs. Aircraft simulators complete with qualified instructors proved popular, while some preferred to get behind the controls of an experiment in fuel efficiency. Video, chemistry labs and choirs alike kept visitors entertained, while a free bus service connected the campus with the Shortland Wetlands Centre. Activities such as the canoe trail and a wildflower exhibition drew crowds, while some found education to be strictly for the birds. The open day continues from 10 a.m. till 4 tomorrow.
There always is.
Both sides open aggressively, and it was West Wallsend who had the best chance early. Shipley's crossed to Vass, and his header cleared the top of the bar. Western then nearly open. Beckett's good ball to Chandler, and Vass finally got a touch to it and was cleared away. Then in the 28th minute, the first goal of the match. King to Beckett with a short corner, and then Beckett was absolutely brilliant making space for himself. He found Murphy. Murphy's shot was partially cleared, but Chandler made no mistake as he rifled the ball into the back of the net. West Wallsend had to open smartly in the second half, and they did just that. Field's cracking shot was tipped over the bar by Oberhauser. Then Shipley, he hit one first time, and again Oberhauser had to call on all his reserves. But Western made the game their own in the 82nd minute. They made a blue West Wallsend. Beckett pounced on it, made a great little break to Chandler, and he made no mistake with number 2.
Wandju residents won a temporary injunction against Lake Macquarie Council on Friday, bringing a stop to work on the road. On Saturday, they planted 50 young trees in the bulldozer's path. But tomorrow, these trees will be torn up after Justice Bignold in the Land and Environment Court this afternoon found the residents' case against Council unfounded. His Honour refused an application for a continued injunction on work, saying the residents' case was very weak. Residents and environmental group Urge say they're extremely disappointed with the result and aren't sure where they'll go from here.
It could be a sign of the tough times that do-it-yourself home improvement sales are booming, but Bruce Fletcher's store has outstripped national turnover figures. The Broadmeadow outlet is the most profitable in a chain of 55 Mad Barry stores, with sales up by 100% over the past 3 years and an annual turnover of $2 million. The Franchisee Award of the Year was started by Franchising Magazine, with bank and legal firm backing. Bruce Fletcher took over the Broadmeadow store 3 years ago and began a complete restoration of the building. He attributes much of the business's success to the teamwork and pride of his staff. Overall sales from franchise outlets in Australia exceed $13 billion each year, more than the United Kingdom with 3 times the population.
Ever since June's pollution summit in Sydney, Newcastle Alderman Frank Rigby has been calling for a seminar to specifically address the problems affecting this region. But the Hunter Air Pollution Summit, planned for Monday at the University of Newcastle, was not what Alderman Rigby had in mind.
When you look at who they're asking to speak, there's not one polluter. Not one of the major polluters has been asked to speak. It's a garden competition that we're going to, not a pollution conference.
With the seminar being held only 2 days after council elections, Alderman Rigby is critical of the government's timing.
Will probably be the worst possible day we could have this year with the election. We won't know who's in representing councils, who the mayors and lord mayors are.
Why do you think the seminar has been convened for Monday?
It's been convened for Monday so that there'd be a complete whitewash of the whole thing. That there'd be much more news on everything else with the elections and everything like that, and this will go over like a yawn. Nobody will even know that it's happening, and it's the most important, without any doubt whatsoever, the most important seminar we will have in the next 10 years.
Also furious by the seminar's timing, Newcastle's Lord Mayor John McNaughton.
There's only 2 explanations. It's inept, and just simply people haven't noticed, or it's done as a whitewash to see that we don't get any proper input into the community from the State Pollution Control Commission.
Alderman McNaughton has been pressing the government to postpone the seminar for 6 weeks because of its poor timing, and not all the Hunter councils know that it's on. A spokesman for the Minister for the Environment, Tim Moore, says the Hunter Summit hasn't been slapped together, but is a follow-on from the Sydney gathering 2 months ago. As for the council's discontent at the ill timing of the summit, the spokesman says he's heard no complaints. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Mr Mackay was accompanied on his tour of the Hunter by NRMA Council member and Australian Rugby Union Test captain Nick Farr-Jones. Mr Farr-Jones is one of 5 members up for re-election by members this month. Among the 32 candidates for the seat is Mayor of Cessnock Marie Callaghan. She's part of a bloc known as the Motorist Action Group, or MAGS, which includes other candidates like Normie Rowe and Dawn Fraser. And Marie Callaghan has certainly been vocal in her criticism of the existing NRMA Council. However, the Council President rejects suggestions that MAGS is involved in a highly divisive struggle for control of NRMA policy.
When I took over as President, there may have been a faction between some of the councillors and some of the Motorist Action Group who were elected last year, but I think I've been able to do quite a bit of reparation work in that area, and the council is functioning quite well now.
Nick Farr-Jones is equally adamant that today's tour of the Hunter was nothing more for him than a chance to learn the ropes.
But I've been up to the Hunter district many times before. I don't think I have to come up here and wave my own banner.
There are more than 1.5 million members of the NRMA eligible to vote. However, only 100,000, or about 5%, actually bother. So a candidate prepared to stir up a bit of controversy stands a very good chance of being elected. NRMA members will receive ballot forms on Monday, and postal votes will close at the end of the month. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Walking the streets, these police might come in contact with a violent assailant. Instead of using a firearm or baton, police from Hamilton, Charlestown and Mayfield are learning the art of Taekwondo.
Block here first, step around and around, dumping down.
The beat police at Hamilton are now on the street walking around, and we thought that perhaps a little bit of weaponless control would make it easier for them if they run into any problems in the street.
Their teacher is Ross Murphy, Australian champion and silver medalist at the World Championships, so they're learning from the best. Although unarmed self-defence is not part of their official training, Hamilton Police believe it's a necessity.
Well, they could probably run into a violent person from a hotel brawl or something else in the street. You never know what you're going to run into out there. So far at Hamilton we haven't had any problems. None of the police have had to use anything they've learnt here. Everything's just been to give them confidence while they're walking around.
Talk to the candidates running for Mayor in Lake Macquarie and Lord Mayor in Newcastle, and most agree councils need to become more community orientated. In fact, in Newcastle, that's the main platform of Liberal candidate Ashley Saunders. He also wants to see a more efficient council, which allows the community to comment openly on issues. Also keen for community representation is Independent Alderman Margaret Gumas, but she also emphasises the importance of back-to-basic matters such as tidying up the city from curb and guttering to council monitoring of industrial emissions. Community Independent Rosalie Cogger is the only other woman standing for the job in Newcastle. She wants to see council spending cut, particularly in the areas of property acquisitions and senior salaries. Independent Alderman John Tate is running on the platform of trust and confidence in council. In fact, he says if he's elected, he'll take a pay cut from the current $60,000 a year for the job to around $25,000. Alderman Don Geddes of the Citizens Group says his main concern is for the future of the city and the lack of current leadership. He believes Newcastle needs a development philosophy to take it into the next century. Newcastle Greens candidate John Sutton wants to see a sustainable future for the city. He proposes setting up a number of task force groups to deal with issues such as waste management, revitalisation and transport. Present Lord Mayor Alderman John McNaughton rebukes claims council has been less than community orientated and says if re-elected, he will continue his aim of bringing people back into the city through revitalisation while working towards a clean and healthy Newcastle.
In Lake Macquarie, 5 candidates are standing for the job of mayor. Community-based candidate Alderman Mark Booth says no issue is too small for him and he wants to put value back into the ratepayers' dollars. Reform Group representative Peter Morris sees erosion and subsequent sedimentation of the lake as a major concern. He believes the current council has ignored the sensitive environmental issues in the city. Alderman Doug Carley of the Labor Party wants to bring democracy back into council by letting the people know how council spends its money. Independent Alderman Bob Toussis would appoint a city ombudsman to listen to complaints of residents and report back to council. He also wants to see a lake and city pollution control team with greater emphasis on recycling. Current Mayor Ivan Welsh agrees council should become more accountable and responsible and says the new Local Government Act will achieve this. But foremost for Alderman Welsh is the cleanliness of the lake and city. He says council has started to work at this and will continue to do so if he's re-elected.
The hit and run took place in front of half a dozen shocked motorists at traffic lights on the intersection of Sandgate Road and Vale Street at about 4:30 yesterday afternoon. Police were told the woman and girl were crossing the road when a four-wheel drive Toyota Hilux utility broke from a queue of waiting traffic and drove straight through a left turn lane. Witnesses have told police the grandmother was knocked to the ground. The little girl went underneath the front of the vehicle, emerging 20 metres down the road. The driver apparently slowed, then accelerated away. Police appeals for information have resulted in a steady stream of callers.
We've even had motorists who have rang up and actually nominated their own vehicles answering the description to allow themselves to be eliminated.
Among the witnesses were a number of truck drivers who have circulated the four-wheel drive's description to other truckies on the CB network. It's believed taxi drivers have also been asked to keep a lookout, but police believe their best chance of clearing up the matter is by a direct appeal to the wanted driver.
I do believe that he certainly was aware that he hit the girl. I would like to think that he is man enough to come forward and to at least stand up and be counted for his actions.
The vehicle is described as a Toyota Hilux twin-cabin four-wheel drive. It was white with a blue stripe down the side and non-standard wheels. It may have had a roll bar or carry rack. This is the second hit-and-run incident in Newcastle in a matter of weeks. In an unrelated incident, 30-year-old Wollongong man Alex Van Alden was killed while trying to stop a thief stealing his car outside a Newcastle nightclub 2 weeks ago. His killer still hasn't been brought to justice. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
It's been lean times for district cricket with the loss of the Tooheys Country Cricket sponsorship and Newcastle's main drawcard venue, the #1 sports ground, scratched from this year's calendar because of earthquake damage to the stands. The local association could do with a few dollars and a few laughs to see it through the summer, and that's where New South Wales side coach Steve Rickson comes into bat. He's organised a trivia night to be held in conjunction with a golf day and an elite cricket coaching clinic in November. The trivia night will see Walters, Wars, Whitney and Matthews step from the pitch onto the stage, along with footy faces Sterlo and Steve Mortimer.
I can guarantee anyone that comes along will have a great night because the quiz masters, the MC and our scoreboard attendant, we're certainly going to have a great time with you.
The trivia quiz night will be held at the Cardiff Workers Club, and funds raised will help tide the Newcastle District Cricket Association over until it can again attract big crowds to quality matches at a much improved venue.
We actually have the Australian Country Championships in Newcastle in the 92-93 season. They'll be played here in January 93. But if we could get a grandstand, I'm sure we'd have first-class cricket fixtures back here. I know New South Wales Cricket Association is supporting us and they want to see first-class games back here like we do. We're very disappointed this year, missing out on a World Cup game, which you look at the places that got World Cup games, Albury, Berry, Canberra, Townsville, and here's Newcastle, the sixth largest city in Australia, with no first-class cricket fixtures here.
With our dry conditions, water users in Newcastle are consuming 30% more water than they were last month. The reason? Lawns and gardens are parched, so consumers are watering them more often. And while each individual might not think twice about doing this, the overall effect is of major concern to the Water Board.
Well, the water storages aren't too bad, but all the trends are on water usage that we're leading to a very dry summer. The water usage over the last month has been what we would normally expect in November, December, which is a very worrying trend for us.
To stop the situation reaching crisis level, the Water Board is developing a drought strategy based primarily on education and public awareness.
We think that the community as a whole should share responsibility for managing water. So over the next 6 or 8 weeks, we're looking at techniques we can introduce that basically inform people about water use and encourage people to conserve water.
Part of the Water Board plan includes offering incentives and penalising water users. Although the details are still to be worked out, if you use less water, you may benefit financially. It's hoped details of the plan will be finalised within 6 weeks. Jodie McKay, NBN News.